Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gillian, and if you are a Wong
fan, then thank you for subscribing. If you're not a Wong fan, then you should be a Wong fan.
So this video is basically me sharing with you guys what I do in my classes and what I teach and the structure of my lessons. Just an inside look of what it looks like in one of my classes. So let's get this video started. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. Let's get to it. I have one class. They are a bunch of engineers and they want to improve their communication skills, so they hired me. I'm like far off from like a business communicator, but hey, you know what, sometimes you need the opposite, because they've been on a computer staring at a screen for the whole day and they need someone like me who is a little bit silly, a little bit bubbly, to come in and just get them out of their comfort zones. And that is what my intentions are each time I go into a classroom. Okay, if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at this book where I usually write kind of like the outline of my lesson. All right, so let's get started. When I usually decide what kind of lesson to do, I always start with what has been on my heart the past week, because I realized as a teacher that there's so many resources out there to teach from that it's easy to just teach based on what is being taught versus what is I'm being taught. Does that make sense? So I like to apply my teaching based on what I'm going through. For example, for this class, I taught about motivation. And the reason why I decided on this topic was because I was going through just a lack of motivation, feeling hopeless and feeling unmotivated. And I just really needed like some motivation myself and thought, why don't I teach people how to be motivated? And that's what my class lesson was about. And once I got that, I have the outline of my lesson. That's when I go into the details. I always like to start my class with a warm-up game. It's a good way to get people, blood flowing, get pumped up for the class, because most Vietnamese are pretty shy and you have to get them out of their comfort zones. Excuse me. So this time, the warm-up game I chose was called the name game. And with this one, it was really fun if you had more people, but I only had 6 people when I played this game. And you basically have each of them stand parallel to each other and face back to back, and you, the teacher, go around to tap on their shoulder. Basically, when you tap on their shoulder, they have to take 3 steps back, and then when you count to 3, 1, 2, 3, they both have to turn around at the same time, and the first person to say the other person's name is the winner. That's why it's called the name game. 1, 2, 3. So that game got them a little bit like frustrated and like blood flowing, and energetic. So that was a good start to the class. And then we moved on to the next part. I have to do a mini transition game before I introduced the lesson. So because the lesson was motivation, the transition game was motivational quotes. I pasted the motivational quotes all over the wall, 4 walls, and I had them guests read the quote and explain to the class what they thought it meant. So here you can see, some of the students worked in pairs and they would just read the quote and then later share with the class what they thought about it and what they think it meant. After we did this, then we finally moved on to the lesson. I handed them out my lesson that I created for them. There's document 1 and document 2, and so I handed out document 2 first. Now document 2 is basically 3 paragraphs of 3 motivational speeches that I took excerpts from, and I did the audio and fill in the blank. So this is a good way to get my students to improve on their listening skills. They were able to listen really closely and try to guess what the motivational speaker was saying. Now for this one, it was a little bit difficult because my audio wasn't too good and they had a hard time picking up on the accents of these motivational speakers, because for example, one of them was Rocky Balboa, and he had a really strong Brooklyn.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
For Vietnamese who's learning English, they're not used to a Brooklyn accent. They're used to the more normalized American accent. So it was definitely a bit of a challenge for them to listen. After we did that, then we would go watch the actual motivational video as a whole.
How hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How about you get cake and keep moving?
The reason I got a decent job. That's the reason why people deal with me in the first place. Now
So we did that for all three motivational speeches. Now we move on to document one. Document one was just kind of simple, wasn't much to interact with. It was just kind of like a layout, as you can see, of how to be a motivational speaker. Before I handed them this document, I usually try to provide some insights into why it's important that they learn motivational speaking. Because the thing about teaching English or teaching anything is you want to get the students involved in what they're learning. I realize if you just give them a document and they have no sort of connection or relation to it, they're gonna lose interest really, really fast. Therefore, I kind of told them
that sooner or later in life, you know, you're gonna reach a time where you're gonna want to give a motivational speech, and so learning this now, the essentials of it and the tips and tricks on how to give a good one will help you in your English career. So after saying that, they were like,
okay, yeah, like I want to learn. So I gave them the document and I just kind of shared with them, you know, everything that you see in this document. We talked about it, they listened and they worked on pronunciation with that. And now that the lesson has been taught, now it's time to move on to the activity. Like I said before, I usually do 3 activities that kind of ties the whole lesson together so that they can improve what they learn in action. Because it's one thing to learn, but it's another thing to apply what you've learned. So these 3 activities will help them do that. The first activity was the challenge, and I love this activity because they got to practice with each other of whenever each other would say or filter words, they would get caught and they would minus points. You know, I would have them have a checklist of did they smile, did they make eye contact, did they use filter words, and they would say yes, no, and then kind of give an overall rating. So this one was super, super funny.
Because you are better than that.
And I had them recite the motivational speech that they listened to. They got to pick which one they want to and recite it as they give the motivational speech. And funny thing was that I actually decided to amp up the humor of it, was to add some motivational music in the background as they shared the speech.
I just want you to know that it's not the end. It matters how you're gonna finish.
Yeah, so they loved it, and I think a huge part of why my class got really involved was because I always try to embarrass myself first so that I set the tone. Because as a teacher, I realized that you set the tone for the whole class. If you come in a bad mood, the whole class is gonna have a bad mood. But if you come in acting silly, acting funny, then they know that's the level that they can operate at, and they too will act silly, act funny. It's called monkey sees, monkey do. Alright, it's called the 3-word motivation. And the 3-word motivation is basically an index card with 3 words of motivation. For example, just do it. And each one of my students would get a motivation index card with 3 words on there and would have to practice to like pump up themselves and go in front of the class to share and only say those 3 words for 1 minute straight, pumping up the class. And I gave them an example with the Shia LaBeouf's Just Do It video.
You're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it!
And I'm actually gonna play some of my favorite ones in this clip right now. It's so good. I still laugh to this day.
1, 2, 3, go. I want you. Just do it. I want you. I want you. I want you. Believe you can. Believe you can. Believe you can. Believe you can. 1, 2, 3, go. Roll your eye. 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 Roll your eye.
3.
Possible. Possible.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Do it now! You have to pay for it. Do it now! When nobody do it now! Right now! Do it now! Do it now! Do it now! What did...
Now and never! Now and never! Now and never!
Okay, alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I mean, that's about it. After we did that, we kind of just wrapped things up. I don't think I did anything else after that. We just kind of like huddled up and kind of like did like a what is it, teammate huddle game thing. Okay, 1, 2, 3, just do it! I always encourage connection and community. Like, if there's anything I want them to take away is that relationships are the most important thing, and I always try to make sure that my students feel comfortable, my students feel that they have friends in this class. It's not just like, you know, me and them, but yes, I'm also like friend with them, but I want them to make friends with each other. So yeah, I try to make the class feel a lot like family, and I think this class was a successful one. I was really excited and motivated myself after teaching this class. So yeah, this is what it's like in one of my classes. So hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go now and edit this video so you can watch it as soon as possible. All right, thank you, bye. You're right, I'm Wong. You're right, I'm Wong.